And the member for
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member for Western Arctic for that very eloquent speech, and of course the member has worked for many years on these matters, and I appreciate the perspective he brings. Mr. Speaker, the member from Western Arctic talked about the fact that the Conservatives have shut down debate on this particular piece of legislation. And it seems ironic that for a government that says that in developing this legislation they did all kinds of consultation, and yet what we have now is overwhelming opposition from coast to coast to coast to their so-called First Nations Control of First Nations Education Act. And I wonder if the member could comment on the fact that what we really need is fulsome debate here in the House so that we do hear from First Nations from coast to coast to coast, and then we need adequate time at committee to fully understand the implications of this this piece of legislation that could have far-ranging impacts on First Nations communities.
The member for Western Arctic.
Well, I couldn't agree more with my colleague from Nanaimo. The problem we have here is that these issues are complex. When we talk about turning over the control of education to First Nations, that's a process that is expensive. It's time consuming. I think of the community of Delaney, which finally in my riding completed a self-government agreement. 20 years to get to the self-government agreement, let alone adding on the taking over of education aspect of that agreement, which is going to take another significant period of time. So we're talking about processes that are complex, that are going to take much time. They're going to take much resources as well. Do I see within this bill an indication that the government's going to put the kind of resources into the development of First Nations regional education opportunities? Those are good ideas. I fully agree that First Nations taking over control of education is a good idea, but I just don't see that process has been fully outlined in this bill, and it has been funded in a way that the First Nations could simply pick up on it.
The member for Durham has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My concern with the remarks by the member from Western Arctic and even his response to his colleagues is the NDP's typical approach here is to delay, suggest more talking, and really not address the issues. And we're hearing from First Nations leaders across Canada who like the idea of taking and being empowered to provide education, and our government is also supplying the money to help them do that. Just today, Regional Chief Roger Augustine described the bill as a, quote, huge improvement, Mr. Speaker, for First Nations parents and communities across the country. And here it is giving power to help improve education, giving funds to help improve education for First Nations students, yet it appears that the member from Western Arctic and his colleagues just want more delay and want more study, when we all know this is a power that's been asked for some time. So I'd ask the member to justify his delay of this provision.
Member for Western Arctic has the floor.
Well, I would hardly call a 10-minute speech in the House a delay of this bill moving forward. As I say, that's just simply ridiculous. But I would say that I would love to see the government put forward some details of their analysis of what it actually takes in terms of funding to bring Aboriginal schools across this country up to the level that they should be at. If he shows me that, if he shows me the details that they put into understanding what it takes, that would be a big start towards supporting this type of legislation. But no, they won't do it, Mr. Speaker. They're not gonna show us what it actually costs. They don't want to put the money forward.